Hello everyone. Welcome back on a Tuesday evening for more Misfits Racing League action. Joining me from the UK as always, Unicorn. It's time for Spa.
Indeed it is, and what a track Spa is. We've just come off Suzuka and at the weekend and Hungary last weekend, but Spa, a fan favourite. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find someone who doesn't like Spa. And here we are, ready for a whole week of racing action here around the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps.
Yeah, I'm really excited. This 19-turn, 7-kilometer circuit. Very dynamic circuit. A lot of elevation change. It's a very fast circuit as well. It's scary in all honesty. We had a practice race around here yesterday for the Misfits Racing League. A big group of drivers jumping on in, and first off, everybody is quick from what I saw in that, and a good chunk of them are going to be racing today in this grid. Let's take a look at the calendar real quick. Of course, the EU grid now, we've seen them through. This is their 9th round here in Spa, and of course it's the Belgian Grand Prix. Next week we have Monza. Following that, Singapore, Russia, Japan, the US, Mexico, Brazil, and Abu Dhabi. I am very excited for the end of this season. I shouldn't say end. I'm not excited for the end. I'm just excited for this last leg, the second half, if you will, of racing action. Of course, things started for the EU grid. I believe it was Spain, which was a very interesting start to their season, and then things got interesting right off the hop. They went into Monaco. So these drivers, they've had a very good test through this season. Let's take a look at the grid. Lutra and Jake for Mercedes. You have Hurricane and Ruben over at Ferrari. That's Dirk Chocolate and Cotters for Red Bull. Alexander and Kana over at McLaren. That's Safso and Beavis for Renault. Stefan Tim for AlphaTauri. You have Vettel and Ifilipic, the Croatian, over at Racing Point. XTXP and Energy. XTXP and Energy for Alfa Romeo. You have Ewins and No Conviction for Haas. And that's going to be Baza and Adam rounding out the Williams team for the 20 drivers on the full-time roster here. Let's take a look at the standings. It's an AlphaTauri leading this one. It's Tim, 88 points there in the championship. Hurricane behind him, 73 points. You have Kana there in third with 69 points. You have Ferrari, Racing Point, and Mercedes, your top three in the constructors. Of course, multiple incidents last week resulting in penalty points, so drive safe for Spa. Of course, Steph is going to be serving a qualifying ban in this race today. He will not be permitted to qualify. Should he do so, well, the stewards are not going to be too thrilled about that, should he be available to race. Of course. Now, with all that being said, Unicorn, I do believe we're ready to go racing here around Spa-Francorchamps.
Yeah, indeed, I think we are. 18 drivers ready and raring to go here. So let's get the message pinged out and get racing underway for the EU division here.
Very excited to go racing here in Belgium. It's the first of 5. As we said, of course, we have the Oceanic division, Tier 2, Tier 1, as well as Club, as well, coming through this week. That will all begin very early on Thursday for those in the UK. It's the Australian / New Zealand / Asian grid. So, of course, the Oceanic division, that will kick things off on Thursday. And then we have Tier 2 at 9:15 p.m. BST. Following that, it's going to be the Tier 1 race at 11. And pretty soon we're going to have some time changes. Everybody, the clocks and things like this going forward, going back around the world now for everyone that participates, and, of course, daylight saving. So we'll have new information coming to you on Twitter for time changes and things like this, so you can make sure not to miss a beat with the Misfits action. Always good to remind everybody we are in October. 'Tis the season. Halloween is coming. Although I imagine we won't be seeing much of a Halloween in comparison to normal, would we, Unicorn, given the things going on right now?
Yeah, it's going to be a strange one for sure. There's not going to be anyone roaming the streets, I shouldn't imagine, trick-or-treating, but...
Kind of strange ones. Do you see what I see?
I am seeing what you're seeing, and I like what I see. Very much so. That is pretty torrential.
Welcome to Spa,
It
ladies
is
and
wet.
gentlemen. It is quite wet here. Curious to see whether it will be the intermediate conditions. Let me see if I can put away this telemetry
full
and catch a
wets.
tire here. Is it full wets? I have
Right
no
now it
vision
is.
of this. Yeah, so it does look like full wets. They aren't switching to the inters. Let's see, though.
That's
They're on the
very
time
interesting.
tire. So grab your friends, get the popcorn, because we've got a wet qualifying here, and we might just have to... We may just be sitting here having a good old conversation, Unicorn. How many of these racers do you think are going to try and brave these conditions? Because the key thing is it going to rain for the entirety of this session? Because if it doesn't, we could see them come out later on. But there's always that risk. It's such a... Oh, and there's a driver out. Somebody wants the camera time. Who's that? I believe it may be Baza.
Atom.
It is Adam. Okay, so Adam knows the routine here. First car out gets the camera time. So it's the Williams. Heading up the iconic Eau Rouge. Through Radion.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because even if the conditions do change towards the end of this session, this is a long lap around Spa. It's a fast track, but it's a very long one. So you can't put in as many laps. Tim there, flicking between intermediates and wets. But
Just received
even
word.
if
Unicorn, I hate to interrupt you, but you'll be happy I did. Jake, of course, coming across. He is in the Mercedes this evening. He's giving us a good heads up from the pit lane here. It's going to be a qualifying wet through the entirety. And we're going to have a dry with a wet dynamic near the end of that race, Unicorn. Dry to wet conditions coming here in Spa. And we're going to really set the bar high, I think, here for the first race of the week for the Belgian Grand Prix we've got coming up for Misfits.
Well, you and I love some dynamic weather mid-race, and if that's what we're about to be gifted here this evening, I think it can only be an excellent race, especially around Spa. Such a high-paced circuit. These drivers are going to be on the top of their game to wrestle these cars around in these conditions, and Atom's just about ready to come down into the bus stop chicane to start the first flying lap of the session.
I'm so excited now, Unicorn, for this race. I mean, I'm going to knock on wood real hard here because the last time you and I got an opportunity to commentate a dynamic like this, there were connection issues that came into the equation. So if you guys are in the lobby, keep things dialed in perfectly and don't alt-tab because we want to see this one through. Of course, if you're in the chat and you're just tuning in, grab your friends, grab the family, tell us who you're rooting for, because guess what we've got coming? We have a dry to wet dynamic coming here in Spa to kick off the week. We've got a wet qualifying. The grid's going to get shuffled all up and down. You can see Adam now in the Williams Unicorn. He will be the first driver to try and get a lap through. And look at these conditions. They are torrential.
Yeah, they're absolutely. I think Codders has had an issue, actually. He's come off through Radillion. He's retired the car terminally.
Yeah, he had an issue coming up Eau Rouge, it would appear. So Steph's out of the session, serving as qualifying ban. You've got Cotters with a crash, and the Red Bulls are not going to be thrilled about that, but he'll be good to go for the race, fortunately. And then you've got everybody on outlaps, everybody on laps right now, but still sticking with Adam here in this Williams as we move back. He's just about to head into Sector 3. And things are very, very tough in these conditions.
Yeah, so far from what I've seen on board with Atom, he's keeping it nice and tidy. We'll have to see what sort of pace he's got, but keeping it on the track is half the battle, especially in conditions like these. So as he rounds into the final couple of corners, what is the time going to be? You can see the lap time. Probably going to be at the 2-minute mark, if not just shy of it.
I think he might just get a 159 in here, 157, 158. Okay, so he goes a 157.8. Who's next to cross is a big question. We have a Haas on a lap out right now. That's going to be Ewan's heading into the pit lane, which means we have a racing point. Is that Vettel? No, it must be Ifilipic, but of course he's on an invalidated time. He is going to continue through, perhaps wanting to get some repetition here in on the circuit, just to get a feel even with the wet conditions. They are going to be seeing wet conditions later on. The Ferrari of Hurricane doesn't have anything cooking right now. His teammate Ruben's on a flyer, but we've got a couple other drivers coming to the line. Jake has just begun a flying lap. XTXP has just begun a flying lap. So lots happening.
Oh, Alexander, a big spin. I think he's going to save it, but he's had a spin just coming through turn 18. His teammate passing as well as Safso. And his teammate this evening, Relapse, reserving. Looks like he has aborted this lap, but it's going to go again, and it's still not a terrible time. It's a 1:57.8, so it's the fastest of the session so far.
His teammate for the occasion, Relapse here in a reserve capacity. A 1:57.8, the provisional pole position. He gets ahead by just half a hundredth of a second. Like, half a hundredth of a second. Like, that's a mouthful. Ahead of Adam. Ruben joins his teammate Hurricane here with the times, a 1:58.1.
And it's nice to see that so far all the times are fairly tight. Sometimes conditions like this, especially around such a long track, can sort of separate drivers out, as more people, or some people, are more comfortable with these conditions than others. But so far, everyone within a second.
Luke on a flyer. I'm actually going to jump on with Jake real quick. Oh, Dirk, as you were about to say.
It's gone very wide through turn 18, when we just saw Alexander spin, and now invalidating around the final corner. He's going to come into the pits. Felipic, though, a 1:55.4, and there's that time disparity I was worried we might see.
Jake to the line now in the Mercedes. XTXP following him. It's Jake P2, a 1:57.166. XTXP now to the line. He gets a big slide out here. I think perhaps aborting that lap. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe just a loss of traction, but it's a 1:59.2 from him.
Yeah, Safso into the final chicane. A little bit of a lock-up for the Renault, but he's still going pretty strong as he comes around the final corner. Again, you can see it a little bit shaky on exit, but try not to spin the car. 1:58.3 from Safso.
Safso, I imagine, wanting to have a good drive here. He hasn't had the best of luck these past few rounds, as I'm sure you can agree, Unicorn. And he'll be looking to hunt down a good lap, or, well, a good finish, I should say, in this race. Him on his way into the pit lane now. One of the two AlphaTauris in this session. Steph currently serving a qualifying ban. Of course, it was Cotters in one of the Red Bulls. He had an incident that saw him crash out coming up Eau Rouge, which is, I'd say, one of the main places we may see some incidents here in this race, especially in the opening phases of the race, or at any point when things are congested. Vettel has a bit of a wave. And a big shout out for Mr. Jack S. returning to the chat. Hello, Jack. Happy to see you, sir. Thank you for the Twitch Prime. Greatly appreciate the support. Hope to see you racing with us again soon, and I hope all is well at school, sir.
Yeah, I think Eau Rouge is going to be particularly interesting, especially in these wet conditions. You know, you want to try and get your car through every section of a racetrack as fast as possible, and when the conditions are like this, that's a little bit more difficult. And even in the dry, Eau Rouge can be fairly tricky to get a grip of.
Vettel looking to join his teammate here. Ooh, he got real close. E3 for Vettel.
Yeah, Felipe seems to still be in a little bit of a world of his own with that 1:55.4. Whether he's got a wet setup and is banking on that being, a better part for qualifying high up the grid and then coming into form at the end of this race. Obviously, with the dynamic weather, it's a little bit of a risk if you've got a wet and dry setup for every track on the calendar, which is what most of these drivers probably do have, is an interesting call. You've got 18 minutes where you want to try and be as fast as possible, and you're going to want to pick a wet setup. But then you've got a race scenario where you've got dry and wet conditions. So picking a setup a little bit more tricky than usual as Ewan's. He's going to come around to set his first flying lap of the session. It's a 1:57.7. That's sixth fastest. Half a second off of Safso's time. As we've got drivers starting to select the intermediate tyre striff. So maybe the track is starting to dry out a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a lot of drivers getting onto the green-rimmed rubber, and Relapse has made his way into P3 there on these wets with quite a little bit of time on them now. He's gone 3 laps on this set, I do believe. And he's into P3, so things are perhaps drying up here. Felipic is on an outlap. We'll right along with him. He's on the rear of Ewens, who just finished up his flyer.
Yeah, it's definitely not as heavy as it was in terms of the rain that's falling. As to what the conditions on the track are like, obviously water can stay around for a fair amount of time on this surface, as Alexander has another spin and retires the car in exactly the same spot as he did before, this time not stopping before the wall. So he's not going to be best pleased with himself.
Yeah, he's not going to be too thrilled. Tim on an outlap, passing him by there. Let's jump on with Lutra. He has started a flyer. He just come up the hill. He's flying down the Kemmel Straight now on those intermediate compound tires.
And someone else who hasn't been issue-free is Dirk Schockler. His car still in this session, unlike a few others, but he's still having issues. It'll be interesting to see whether he finishes this lap or decides to come into the pits and change onto these inters if they're faster.
I have said it all season long how much I love to see rain, but I cannot. I don't mind driving it either, but in Spa, that's just a whole nother level of pressure here, because the drivers, I think, in these conditions, even on a dry setting, with how tight these grids have been, they've already got to worry about not stepping a foot wrong and making a mistake that could potentially, see them lose a position or worse yet, crash the car. So now you have this wet dynamic coming into play, completely throwing a monkey wrench into the equation. Lutra now, he's going to be the first driver to set a lap, I believe, on these intermediate compound tires. We'll just see how much things have been able to pick up on circuit. But there's 4.5 minutes remaining. You can't get too many laps in around Spa. And right now, the pole time, it's a 1:55.438. He is going to beat it on the intermediate compound tires. So things have dried up enough. The circuit has gotten quicker, and that is going to be the Mercedes into provisional pole now. But there are a variety of drivers who have a good majority of the drivers on this grid unicorn have jumped onto those intermediates, all going to be looking to improve. So who's going to have the best track conditions to do so?
Yeah, Striff, the track is certainly fast. I was on board with Felipic coming through Sector 1. Now in Sector 2, he was 4/10 up out of Sector 1. He's now 2 seconds up coming out of the second sector. Tim's just crossed third fastest, a 1:56.5. So Felicic's time on the wet compound tyre is still pretty strong compared to some of these guys on the inters, and it's only going to get stronger provided he can finish through the chicane here. Into the braking zone he comes, and it looks like all is well for the Racing Point, and this is what our new benchmark is going to be. I believe it's a 1:52.562. So still keeping that, it's now 1.5 second gap to the car behind.
No conviction in the Haas. One of the only remaining running drivers yet to set a lap here. Him and Dirk Chocolate, the pair yet to set a time, but it's going to be no conviction now to the line. He's not going to be good enough for a pole time, but he is going to be good enough for P11. Dirk is on an outlap right now. Jake coming out of the chicane. He's up quite a good amount here. He goes third quickest, jumping Tim.
And there's another thing that a wet qualifying into a dry start at least brings is that everyone has free tyre choice. And depending on how early that rain is set to come in, I think that's going to impact drivers' tyre choices if they can do a one-stop hard to things. As Hurricane on 152.482 dethrones Pitch, who does appear to not be going again, at least now. Whether he's got time for another lap on these tyres, he definitely doesn't have time to come into the pits.
Hurricane's going to be happy with that big time in the Ferrari. Jump on with Derek here. Trying to get some temperature into his tires as he is going to be one of the last drivers to get a time on the board here. Of course, thank you to Vanix for the 4 months at Tier 1. Greatly appreciate that. Big shout out in the chat for the 4-month sub. Greatly appreciate all of your support, everybody, viewing along with us all season long. Dirk Chocolate in the Red Bull, last driver to set a time. No pressure.
Yeah, Tim on his last attempt improved by just under 2 seconds and jumped Jake for P4. Vettel as well, he is flying. I do believe he's yet to set a time on these intermediate tyres. He's just coming through Sector 2 now. We'll have to see whether he can best his teammate here. It is definitely possible. We've seen Hurricane do it already as Jake hops into P4, a 154.2, taking that position back from Tim.
Still raining here on the circuit quite well. You can see it in the onboard of Dirk, and I don't know if maybe it went heavy to light back to heavy. I don't know. Maybe he got the short end of the stick here on this run. I don't know. The drivers know best, but from where I'm sitting, it still looks quite wet.
Yeah, the track certainly, whilst it's drying, it's not dry by any stretch of the imagination. Bars are 154.9. That will coming into the chicane, but yeah, no one. Tim is now in the pits, or he's coming in. That's a good place to get a stationary view of what the weather is doing. Vettel 153.1 hops into P3.
Those two racing points have been very quick in qualifying all season long.
Yeah, indeed, Atom as well, P4.
Dirk gets it into the top 10. He's into P9. And as you said, this wet qualifying going to give everybody that free option of tire here because it's going to be a dry race start into wet conditions. He'll be happy with that, I think.
Yeah, and he's pulled it out of the bag when he needed to as well.
Well, he won't be happy with how it went when he when he got up the hill, though. Gets the time in, then makes the mistake. I guess that's how you have to do it. No conviction. Takes the checkered flag, and he isn't going to improve by a massive amount. Just nearly 0.02 of a second there, an improvement for him. Lutra is on a flyer as drivers start to catch the checkered flags. Now we are going to look ahead on this grid. Of course, it looks like Hurricane's flying. He could also be on an in-lap in Safso. Looks like he's had an issue by the pit lane.
In the pit entry, yeah. He just drove into the pit entrance and just ripped his tyre straight off. Ruben getting a little slipstream from his teammate, and that might have cost him a little bit as he goes wide coming through turn 18. He's going to be forced to finish this lap out, but how much time that's going to cost him, we'll have to wait and see. It's still going to be a 154 flat, though, from the Ferrari driver. Puts him 7th fastest.
Well, my mistake there. A little bit of a mute situation going on with my mic as I was talking about the final few racers, but let's talk you through it. Hurricane on pole position, a 152.482 from the Ferrari. That's Filipich on the front row next to him, a 152.562. 0.08 of a second separating those guys, and you have Lutra there who got it into third with that last lap, a 153 flat, and he will be rounding out your top 3 racers here. We'll go down with the rest for the formation lap. Of course, Vettel and Ewens rounding out your top 5, and that was a very dynamic qualifying, to say the least, Unicorn.
Yeah, the wet weather conditions are always going to throw a spanner in the works, especially when you're going from full wets to intermediates, where you've just got that standing water and it's never going to be dry, because when the rain is constantly coming down, but you started with the heavy rain, that track's going to dry slower than it would if, the sun came out. But speaking of the sun, there it is. This race starting in the dry conditions, but if the weatherman is to be believed, we will be seeing that rain make a return at the end of this race. So everyone at the start of this race on whatever tyres they choose to start on. But at the end of this race, I think their hand's going to be a little bit more forced by the elements.
Yeah. Of course, if you're just tuning in from Canada, my name is Strifium. Joining me from the UK, Unicorn. Of course, we have this Global League action for you. It's EU division, although there's people from all over the world in this grid. I will say one thing. Grab your friends, because it's Spa. We've had a wet qualifying to set the table, and we are going to be going from dry to wet conditions in this race. We don't know when the rain is coming, but this is going to be a cracking race, because this grid is tight, as we've seen it all season long. We're here for round 9. It's the Belgian Grand Prix. Away on formation lap, we have Hurricane, Filipich, and Lutra, your top 3. Vettel, Ewens, Jake, Relapse, Adam, Ruben, and Tim. That is your top 10 rounded out. And then we have, of course, the remaining 8. XTXP, Baza, Dirk, No Conviction, Safso, Steph, Alexander, and Cotters. Let's take a look at the tires. What a mixture. We have everything you can think of, from mediums, softs, and hards. This is going to be a very interesting race. And more rain is on the way.
Yeah, the tyre situation very varied. The largest clump of the same tyres is 3 drivers on softs from 6th to 8th. Everywhere else, it's just a complete mix-up of softs, mediums, and there's a few hard runners in there as well. Hurricane on pole is possibly the most interesting. He's chosen the mediums, the 2 cars behind him on the softs. So we'll have to see what sort of pace difference these guys have when it comes to these differentiating tyre combines. Ruben's the highest on the hards, Hurricane's teammate, down in 9th place. But yeah, these tyres are going to make this race start, and quite a few of the laps following as well. They're just going to make this start of this race, the first half, very interesting to watch.
Yeah. Of course, share the stream, help us out, get some people in here for what's going to be a thriller, as all of these racers on these different tires, such a differential, it's a tightly paced grid. You've got the tire differential in the delta. You've got the scattered grid thanks to the wet qualifying, with a very, very scattered table setting, if you will. And it's a long race. You see, it's 22 laps here around Spa, but it's a long 22 laps, let me tell you. And yesterday in the practice race, we had 3 safety cars, no VSCs. So let's talk safety cars. If you're in the chat, let us know how many safety cars you think we may see here in Spa. We've got 18 drivers on this grid. Things are just about to get cooking here.
Yeah, the drivers just taking up their spots on the grid, getting ready to start this. It looks like a short race with only 22 laps, but given the length of that lap, like you just said, it's going to be just as long as we would usually expect.
Well, it's time to go, Unicorn. Take us away here for the first Belgian Grand Prix of the week.
Here we go then. The timing sequence not quite in sync, but we are away here for the first Belgian Grand Prix of the weekend. Those soft runners of Lucia. He's already going upside Hurricane. You've got Philippe 3 wide through turn 1. There's been a collision behind.
Oh, well, there it is.
It's a safety car already.
Yeah, that's a safety car already.
And already,
wow,
Hurricane down 2 places.
Well, that was very quick, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what happened behind. It looks like Atom, he's lost 10 places. So he's definitely been involved in something. I saw a collision on the start-finish straight, but goodness knows what it was for.
We're going to go down this grid and we're going to do what we can to figure out who has damage. Philippe and Lucia so far here, both clean. Hurricane in third is clean. You have Jake in fourth, clean front wing there. We'll take a look at Ewens in a moment here. He's unfortunately got the rev glitch happening. Vettel, clean. Looks like Ewens may be missing. No, he's good. Relapse. Take a look at him as we come down the hill here. We're checking for damage. He's clean on that front end. Tim is clean. He had a very interesting start. We'll take a look at the position changes. He moved up 2 positions.
Yeah, I think XTXP is the highest runner right now with damage. He's missing his right end plate. And then behind him, you've got Steph, who's missing a fair amount of his front wing, actually. More than just an end plate. Bars is missing an end plate. No, Conviction is damage-free.
The 2 Red Bulls are also clean. So, for those just tuning in or wondering what the heck just happened, it appears there was an issue resulting in a safety car before we even made it to turn 1. It happened on the straight section heading down into turn 1. And thankfully, due to the safety car, we will not have a restart as a result. There wasn't really... I think it looked worse than it was. But a lot of these drivers not with damage at the moment. A few people are taking this opportunity to come in, and one of them, Unicorn, is Philippe in the Racing Point. What's he doing? I think he's going to get onto some hards. Could he be looking to one-stop this to the end here? It's going to be so intense if he tries to do that, but could be mediums.
Oh, he's
could
serving
be
a penalty.
Oh, he's serving a penalty. So he's serving a penalty in the pits. He's going to serve more time there, but he wants to get that out of the way. What a race start. And you know what this means? As we've seen it already, Unicorn, when that safety car comes out, the weather dynamic shifts. And the last time we saw it, the rain came when the drivers didn't even know there was going to be any rain. It opened up the drivers to an entirely different element. So this could mean we see the rain even sooner. Things are already starting to cloud over coming out of the Kemmel Straight.
Yeah, and what's interesting here is we've just seen Hurricane get absolutely robbed of P1 by Lucia and Philippe. Obviously, Philippe now into the pits. And now I'm pretty sure that was just as a result of those soft tyres having much better traction off the line. Obviously, this time it's going to be a rolling start with Lucia controlling the pace. But it's going to be interesting to see what sort of advantage the softs have over the mediums, and if that advantage is quite as noticeable as it was on the first start of this race, given that that was stationary. But as a result, I'm interested that Philippe has gone for the hards here after that pit stop. Obviously trying to take it to at least the wet weather conditions. But he knows that those softs are powerful, and he's elected to switch off of them.
I think we really need to buckle up here, Unicorn. This is going to be a long race. I think we're going to have a couple more safety cars, maybe a VSC to spice some things up, and you got, of course, the rain dynamic that's going to be entering place soon enough. So we are going to be having one heck of a drive and one heck of a broadcast here, and things haven't even begun. We've got we didn't even get through a turn without the safety car getting called out.
Yeah, it was... I saw an end plate fly. I've got the 3 front runners going 3 wide, and they're the only guys who made it to turn 1, I think, before that safety car was called out. So it looks like the safety car might be going for one more lap, as Atom has only just caught the rear of this grid, which there's a little bit of a gap between XTXP and Safso forming as well.
I think Filipic is in a very good position here. He's leading the drivers that came in on those opening lap pit stops here. And he's on the hards. He'll have everybody ahead of him that's still needing to pit. And he could be on those hards until the rain, of course. These drivers all ahead of him, I don't think they may make it. Well, we don't know when the rain's coming either. That's the other big thing here. Nobody knows. At the very least, we don't. The drivers are going to be talking to Jeff all race long, sector by sector, trying to get knowledge of when that rain's coming. Now, one key thing to note here. Penalties are servable under safety car conditions. What isn't servable under safety car conditions is a drive-through penalty.
Yeah, so Ivanivic, he's cleared that 5 seconds at his best moment there, whereas...
Let me just clarify real quick. 5-second penalties are servable. 3-second penalties, however, are not.
Yeah, you can't serve them at any point during a race, so 5 seconds. I imagine I don't even know if we've ever seen a 10-second stop go. I don't think that's part of the game. I think it's just 5 seconds.
Yeah, I don't think it will actually accumulate them. I can speak from experience, though. One thing that definitely sucks is double stacking behind a guy with 5 seconds and a wing change. And then going in, serving your 5 seconds. Then you have to wait for everybody to get things ready. Then it's a nightmare. Don't get yourself into that situation. But of course, we've seen it happen a few times here in these races where the drivers will actually avoid the double stack in the safety car conditions. I think that's a mistake. We saw it happen to a couple of drivers last week where they lost out. I think I saw it in the practice race yesterday. I think the double stack is a better risk to take than coming in a lap later when the entirety of the grid has jumped in. Don't know if it's been talked about, but the rain is coming. Lap 15 to 16, I believe. Thank you, Mr. Some Idiot, in the chat. We were not aware of when it was coming. Now we have a bit of an idea. The thing is now with this safety car and the potential for more safety cars, as I'm sure you can agree, that equation might even get wrenched. Of course, the safety car is coming in. You can see Lutra slowing things down, and we're about to go racing here again. Unicorn.
Yeah, these guys getting raring to go. Lutra, I imagine he's going to go straight as soon as he is out of this final turn here. Leave everyone in the dust, trying to get through that chicane. There he goes, opening the taps. Hurricane, he's ready and waiting, but Jake as well in the other Mercedes. He's looking at Hurricane's rear, and he is on the soft compound tires, so he should be faster than Hurricane.
No conviction, Safso. Sorry to interrupt. Wheel to wheel coming down into turn 1. No conviction, gets ahead of Safso. We're going to jump back on with Jake now because he's right on the rear of this Ferrari as we come up Eau Rouge.
Yeah, the pace of these softs is absolutely unparalleled, but Hurricane managed to just stick it out just a little bit, both using as much ERS as they like. As we've got a yellow flag, it's no conviction out of the session. He's come off through Eau Rouge, but it's Jake going around the outside of the Ferrari into Les Combes, and Jake still holding on to P2 for the time being. They're still side by side as they're about to come down to the long right hander that is turn 10. The Ferrari of Hurricane on the inside, and he's just going to hold on to second place for the moment.
Things are very tight in on this grid right now. No conviction has lost out. No safety car yet here in this one, but I may have just jinxed it. Alexander, as you said, he's had an issue. Everybody passing him by. He's got some very fast movers coming behind him. He still has one more. That's Adam, but I think he's recovered enough here. Oh, he's even let Adam by. He's struggling with temperature. We're going to move back with Vettel in the racing point. He's less than half a second on the rear of Ewens in the Haas right now. And all of these drivers are going to be happy to breathe as we move into, hopefully, the first full green flag lap of lap 5. Of course, technically it's this one, but I think these drivers want to get some good pace coming through on that start-finish straight here.
Oh, Adam's had an issue. He's spun his car down through Stavelot and just coming into turn 16. The Williams suffering an end plate loss.
Filipic dispatched Cotters for P9. Lots of stuff happening right now. Little battles unfolding here. We're going to take a look at Vettel once again in the Racing Point. Still one of the closest gaps on grid. And of course, we're coming up through a very, very key element for Slipstream here. Look at the amount of speed he's carrying on the rear of this Haas. He's got Relapse a little bit further behind. Alexander has had a retirement. He has dropped it into the pit lane. They have called the race for that McLaren. Relapse is now going to be on his own. Vettel, last of the late breakers here, and he gets through into fourth with a very, very smooth move, and now Relapse has the front row seat.
Yeah, XCXP tried a similar move around the outside of Steph, not quite to the same success, though Vettel's move was really quite textbook perfect, to be honest, but Relapse now looking at Ewens on exit of turn 11, and it looks like he might get him down into the inside of turn 12, braking a little bit much because side by side through here is a very risky endeavor as Luxor and Hurricane are going side by side. Hurricane's managed to find some pace out of absolutely nowhere, a little bit of contact between the two, and that's going to open the door a little bit for Jake as well. He's going to have a look at the rear of the Ferrari, not being able to squeeze through as they come onto this long straight that's separated by a few very fast corners.
Yeah, this fight for the lead right now, it's the Ferrari and a Mercedes sandwich, and this isn't something we're unfamiliar with. Of course, last season we've seen drivers of this caliber at the front in these constructor vehicles, of course. Charles Leclerc with the win around Spa last season. Jake now is going to have a look, and of course DRS has been enabled. Vettel is going to be happy about that, being a significant amount of time away from Relapse, and now it's a dive, I think, from Relapse on the inside of Ewens, but not enough to get it done. But he's got a great exit here, and he's on those soft compound tires showing so much pace. This is going to give Ewens, I do believe, the DRS on Relapse. I don't know if Relapse is going to have it on the cars ahead. He will not, so this may have been in vain, but let's move ahead and look at Vettel. He's looking at Jake. Jake doesn't have it done on Hurricane. Wheel to wheel now for the Mercedes and Racing Point. It's Relapse and Ewens. Ewens holds on to fifth as he gets that DRS back ahead of Relapse, and now it's Cotters and Safso with an exchange. Cotters losing out the final points position to the Renault. That's Safso, and now it's Steph breathing down his neck as we make our way down the hill, but it's back to Relapse, wheel to wheel with Ewens.
Yeah, again, not quite getting the exit he needs to make the move down into turn 12, and I don't know if Vettel knows something we don't about breaking into turn 7, but that's twice he has made a move, and now he's got another battle up ahead. It's Hurricane and Luxra. They're very close together, and this battling is just going to help Vettel even more as Hurricane, a very good exit out of turn 16. He's going to look around the outside of Luxra, but Luxra a little bit more ERS in the tank. Hurricane's going to have a look around the outside into the bus stop chicane. A little bit later on the brakes than the Mercedes, but not quite late enough. And Luxra hold on to the lead.
Vettel's going to be looking to inherit here, and of course Vettel isn't going to be working as hard, I don't think, as Hurricane to try and catch up with Luxra. He's kind of just sitting here on the rear of these two. Jake, though, on those softs, going to be applying a little bit of pressure, but of course they're on the mediums. They can go a little bit longer than the softs. Ewens on those mediums. He's fallen out of this train for the time being, and Relapse has really been costing him some time here.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see just that DRS enabled on the McLaren. A little bit of usage of the battery as well down into turn 7, and that is the McLaren ahead of the
Hurricane and
Haas.
Luxra still wheel to wheel. Luxra wanting to keep that lead position right now versus the medium runner in that Ferrari. Things are so tight between these two. Luxra doing very well to defend.
Yeah, and Vettel is just watching this. He knows that if one of these guys makes a mistake, he is just going to be well in and be in a prime position to take advantage of that. And he's got to be a little bit wary of the Mercedes of Jake behind him. He's not completely leaving him behind.
Another driver I want to take our attention to for a moment. It's Filipich. I think he's just had an issue with perhaps Tim. He was quite tight. He lost some time. He's on these hard compound tires, 4 laps old, and it's Ruben behind him now who's going to be trying to apply some pressure. We know Ruben's capable of it. Of course, he won Monaco this season, and we know what kind of pressure cooker that is. Hurricane, speaking of pressure, has been keeping it on Lutra. As we come down into the chicane, is he going to look for a switchback maneuver? Lutra holding to that inside as well as he can. DRS down this pit straight.
Yeah, it's all about who can get the better exits here.
Cotters and Baza in an exchange wheel to wheel. It looks like Baza getting ahead of Cotters. Cotters has been losing out on these hards massively on this stint. Back to the train. We've had a yellow flag. It appears Adam struggling. Just outside, just ahead of Sector 3.
Hurricane around the outside of Lutra into turn 7, but Lutra, he's going to hold that position. The softs still seem to have a fair bit of traction, and he's managed to defend the Ferrari for P3. Baza and Cotters, they're still going wheel to wheel. Again, it's turn 7. Very much an action spot so far throughout this race.
Well, the train has been extended as Ewens has joined the equation. Tim is going to be joining soon as these mediums start to pick up speed and these soft runners are going to start to lose traction. Things are quite intense as Vettel is looking to inherit, and there's been a retirement with Adam. The Williams team has pulled the car. He is in the pit lane. So there will not be a safety car. Don't get your hopes up just yet, ladies and gentlemen. But as we can get our hopes up, we're just approaching lap 9. Take a look at the sky, Unicorn.
Yeah, there's a fair amount of cloud forming here above Spa, and down into the bus stop chicane. We've got Vettel and Hurricane both looking at Lutra. It's 3 wide into the chicane. Hurricane's managed to get P1, and I think Vettel is going to get P2 because Lutra has gone into the pits. Does he have damage on his Mercedes?
No, he does not have any damage on that Mercedes, and he could be going off of those soft compound tires. I think he's going to get onto some hards here. And look at the moves coming out of Vettel. It looks like there's been...
Jake's just done a huge dive bomb, I think. That's what's happened there.
Not entirely sure what happened. It looks like Vettel conceded the position back to him. He's going to have the run, but this is really giving Relapse an opportunity here. Look at the cars. It's 3 wide coming down the straight. Jake's lost out. Is Relapse going to win here? It's not going to be a win just yet for him, but he is into the podium positions, and all of this fighting has Hurricane in a fantastic position in that Ferrari. Leading this race, he is going to get some time as these drivers continue to fight. Felipe is going to be happy as well. He's on the freshest rubber in the top 8 cars. And he's on the hards.
Yeah, Bars has crashed before Eau Rouge coming out of turn 2. I think Jake there, I think he slowed down to let Vettel pass, which let Relapse pass as an apology for turn 1. I think maybe he missed his braking point because he really did fly into that corner at some speed and really overshot, but he's had a bit of a wobble, and that's going to give Tim a very good look at the outside through turn 15, and that is our championship leader up into P4. Jake is having some serious issues. I don't know if this is tyre wear related, but Ewan's now in the Haas. He's going to go past.
Felipe is looking for it too. He dropped back, but he was there on the inside. Oh, he's got such a good carry of speed now. It's double wheel to wheel coming down into the chicane, and it looks like Jake almost went into the rear of Tim here, and Felipe is on his inside. Jake's going to call it a pit time. He's getting into the box, and of course, Felipe will be thrilled now to hunt down this train ahead.
Yeah, I'm not surprised Jake decided to bring that one into the pits after the amount of close shaves he had on those tyres during that lap.
Onto the mediums for Jake. Going a little different from his teammate. Lutra's going to jump him, of course, with that undercut. Things still tight. Felipe, very tight to the rear of Ewens, looking for P5, and you have Relapse just up ahead. He is very tight to the rear of the Mexican. That's Vettel. Felipe now with the exchange coming through. He gets ahead of Ewens with a neat move. And the train is still quite long here. Safso and Ruben in the mix.
Yeah, and Relapse, the last runner on these soft compound tyres that he started these races on. I wouldn't be surprised to see him come into the pits, but with the cloud coverage growing, maybe he's going to try and hold out. I can't see him happening as Ruben goes fairly wide through turn 12. That's going to give Sasso a little bit of an opportunity to close up to the Ferrari.
Well, I think it's time for everyone to grab their raincoats, Unicorn. I think we've got maybe half a lap here, maybe a full lap before we start seeing a little bit of rainfall. On board with Safso right now, looking at the South African in the other Ferrari, Ruben, wanting to catch up with Hurricane, I imagine. He's on the hards, Hurricane's on the mediums. Ruben's one of 2 drivers in the top 10 right now on the hards.
Yeah, there's a fairly large train now forming behind Tim. Ewan's, like I said, catching up a little bit, and Sasso sort of at the end of it in P8 to see if anyone exchanges positions coming through.
I think Tim's in some hot water here. He's got no DRS ahead of him. He's fallen out of that top 3, and he's got a very, very fast Croatian hunting him down with DRS and overtake. Yeah, that's clear cut as can be there for the Croatian. Things behind them, however, not so clear cut right now. Ruben, Ewens, and Safso in tight formation as we make our way down the hill, and Safso's the closest of the 3.
And I think we're starting to see the first drops of rain.
Yeah, we are. It's coming down in Safso's cockpit. I can see it. I think you can too. I said it was going to be half a lap, Unicorn. Do we know our stuff or what? And it's going to be a little bit longer before we perhaps see anyone dare to jump on the intermediate compound tires. Word to the wise, wait for that DRS to come offline. But the fun fact about that is there's only 2 DRS straights, and they're both within the first sector.
There are some people who have made some errors here. The 2 Mercedes who have pitted very early before this, they're going to struggle because they're going to have to pit again, and they've already lost a pit stop. But Sasso's very tight to the rear of Ruben. Also, relapse. He probably wants to get off of those soft compound tyres, but now the rain's coming down. It's going to tempt him to try and go as long as he can. But I imagine that those tyres are very worn as Sasso almost spinning out of the final corner.
Yeah, he's not going to be thrilled about that. That cost him a very valuable run on Ruben here, and the rain is starting to really come down now rapidly.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see relapse pit for intermediates at the end of this lap at all. As Lutra's into the pits, just 1 lap or 2 after he came in for the hards, and he is on the intermediate compound tyres. DRS still enabled.
Yeah, he's got that run onto the inside now, but Ruben jumps on the brakes way later, but that's cost him a big lunge into the off run.
Yeah, it's cost him a 3-second time penalty as well, so not worth it at all. In terms of defending that one place, it could cost him multiple at the end of this race, especially with how closely woven this grid still is. Stiff, we're 12 laps in, and we've still got people well within a second of each other.
Well, Cotter's still, if I'm not mistaken, on his starting hard compound tires. He's just been dispatched by the medium runner of Jake. Safso now very tight to the rear of Ruben, had almost gone into the rear of that Ferrari. DRS has been disabled, Unicorn, and that is a big indicator for these racers because that means it's getting wet enough for wet compound tires as Lutra and Dirk Chocolate, the 2 racers on them here so far quite early. A yellow flag coming up through Sector 2. Steph has just lost out. I think he's had an issue. XTXP maybe, I don't know, but XTXP getting ahead of the AlphaTauri into 9th position. Ewens on the rear of Tim, and who's going to start coming into the pit lane here? Hurricane has, and he's the leader of this race. So does everybody blink behind him? Vettel in, relapse. Has he stayed out? No, he's decided to come into the pit lane here, and it looks like there's going to be a big procession of cars coming into this pit lane here to get onto some wet compound tires, and this is what we wanted. We wanted to see some wet dynamics.
This has been relapse saving grace. If that had been 1 lap later, then he would have been in big trouble, but it's not. This is going to cost I Felipic, though. He's had a stellar drive to recover after
Jake
that
and
early pit
XTXP,
stop.
I think, may have had an issue because they were both quite slow. XTXP may be struggling. I'm not entirely sure what occurred. Of course, stewards may have a look later, but Everybody is in. And Luktra, well, him getting out early has got him back into some points. Very smart for Luktra here. Very, very smart and very fortunate for him. Jake is going to come out just behind XTXP. As we saw, they had a little bit of a question mark coming into the pit lane. But we're already green flag racing here. Jake wheel to wheel with XTXP coming up Eau Rouge. There's a little bit of contact in there. Both into the wall. Massive contact between the Mercedes and the Alfa Romeo. And that was suicide between these two. XTXP out of this race. VSC has been deployed as a result, Unicorn.
Yeah. Well, this VSC isn't really going to help anyone. Everyone's just going to have to stick to the Delta. It's only going to save... maybe Tim if he was under pressure from humans, but I don't think he was. I do stand corrected on one point, though. The Racing Point pit crew, somehow, despite the double stack of, I imagine, the lead that Hurricane and Vettel had, you can see they're a little bit further ahead than Relance and Ifilipich. Ifilipich, despite coming in behind his teammates, still holding on to a solid 4th place. So he's had an excellent recovery drive from when he came out of the pits earlier in 11th or 12th. So now back up into 4th. Really solid racing from him. But yeah, this VSC, can't imagine that it'll last for too much longer.
Well, it's really shaking things up here. All of the tire strategies, the pit stops, the deltas have really been shaken up now. Things are going to come down to pace and the wet weather. Ewens is the closest gap on grid right now. 1.1 seconds ahead of him is Tim, and he's got Safso quite tight to the rear. And Safso, quite the well-formed driver. He's shown some very good drives through this season. He hasn't had the best luck as of recently, but could it be that these wet conditions give him a good opportunity to get into some points now? Dirk Chocolate getting ahead of his teammate. Cotters is definitely feeling these wet conditions right now. He's already dropped off nearly 2 seconds from his teammate as Cotters made it, or excuse me, Dirk made it ahead. That was a very, very tough incident to watch between the Alfa Romeo of XTXP and Jake. I have to say that's Jake coming in to do the pit lane now. He had that missing front wing.
Yeah, Codders as well. He's into the pit lane. I think... can't see whether the Red Bull has got damage as well. It looks like they are bringing a fresh front wing out for him, so that explains how his teammate got past him so easily. But we've got Ewens on the rear of Tim. They are still pretty tight on this grid, and obviously the wet weather now making racing behind someone a little bit more tricky as spray is thrown up into your visor. Makes visibility much less of a luxury. That blinking red light on the rear of the car ahead is very useful for these drivers. But Ewens too far away to make any moves at the moment. He's just going to have to wait for Tim to sort of make a mistake and just slowly start closing this gap. It does seem that he has a little bit more pace than the current championship leader at the moment in this wet weather conditions, as Tim seems to be struggling just a little bit as Relapse gets a 3-second time penalty for track limitations.
This has been a very, very unique race. We've had one safety car, which occurred on the opening turn of the race. We've had the VSC, now we've had the wet weather dynamic, and I think it's going to be getting heavier, and we could see another pit stop here. But then again, we are witnessing a good amount of spray coming out of Tim's car into the cockpit of this Haas, but Ewens, seeming to really like these wet weather conditions, is keeping very well with Tim.
Yeah, he's closed this gap, and obviously there's no DRS, so he's done that all via raw pace. But now through Rouge and Rodillion, he's lost a lot of his hard work there, but coming into the second sector, it's where he gained all that time, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him do it all over again. Yeah, you can see it just seems to have more traction than the Avatari, and maybe his setup is a little bit more accustomed to the wet weather. Looking up the inside into turn 10, that would have been very cheeky, but not quite being able to do it. And I think it's very well advised that he didn't go for that move, but still very close to Tim for P5. And let's not forget Safso. He's not too far behind these guys. So if these guys fight too much for this 5th position, they could have a Renault appearing much closer in their wing mirrors if they're not careful.
I think Safso's counting on it, and Lutra is counting on Ruben to continue dropping a little bit of pace to him, because Ruben struggling at the moment, and Lutra's going to be looking to inherit Ewens now. Very tight to the rear of Tim, less than 2/10 the gap a moment ago as we came through into Sector 3 here.
Yeah, someone else as well, Ifilipic, he is closing in on relapse very quickly. He is absolutely tearing into this McLaren, looking to try and get both the racing points onto that podium.
Ooh, Ewens just took a corner cutting penalty. We're going to jump on with Ifilipic really quickly. Fortunately, he has a little bit of a rev issue as we jump on his onboard here. Ewens, a little bit of a love tap on the rear of the AlphaTauri, a little bit of a weave out from the tires, and this has given Safso that opportunity to catch up within half a second.
Here goes Ifilipic, side by side with the McLaren, down through the Kemmel Straight. And a little bit later on the brakes as well into turn 7. And he has just absolutely nailed the braking point there. A really clean overtake from Ifilipic.
Lutra and Ruben in an exchange right now. Lutra on the rear of that Ferrari. Showing a lot of very good traction through this section of circuit. A little bit more so than Ruben, I think, through the turns.
And Tim being under pressure here is very good for those he's fighting in the championship. Obviously currently leading, but Hurricane P2 in the standings is currently leading by 2.5 seconds here at the moment. So worth noting, relapse has dropped back 1.5 seconds to the racing point ahead of him. And it's only been about a lap, so whether we see Tim able to close that gap up or whether it's just Ifilipic tearing away, we'll have to wait and see. Ewens getting still ever closer to Tim. Not going to be able to make it into the bus stop chicane.
They're very intense in this race between these three. I've just been watching carefully along with the intervals and the times here. Let's take a look at the fastest lap. Hurricane's holding on to it right now. 1:45.7 is the fastest lap. We'll take a look at the stops in this one. There have been as many as 3 stops in Jake's case. And we have a few drivers with the 2 stop and most of them on the 1. Well, actually, it's basically split for the strategies. Ewens has just been hunting down Tim. Tim's up 5 positions in this race. He's had a good drive here so far. Safso's made up 8 positions. You've got Steph, who's made up 6 positions, and Dirk Chocolate's going to be wanting to get into the points.
And you just mentioned fastest lap. That's currently in Hurricane, and I don't see him losing it either, given that these conditions are likely going to be with us till the end. So the fact that he set that in the dry pretty much confirms that he's going to be able to keep it.
Another thing is, if these conditions get worse and they may need to see those full wets, it'll shake things up again. If anyone has penalties to serve in a grid this tight, we also have the dynamic of, you know, a potential safety car. We're getting, I think, close to the threshold where that option may disappear, but we're on lap 17, soon to be 18 here out of 22. And we've had everything thrown at us from opening turn safety car, VSC, crashes, collisions, drama, Eau Rouge incidents, rain.
Those beautiful turn 7 overtakes, they are really quite something to behold there. One thing as well, if we do see these drivers think that the conditions are heavy enough for full wet tyres, if we have that switch over in pace, as Ewens, before he continue, looked up the inside into the chicane, not going to go for it. Might have pressurised Tim though. Is he going to be able to have a look out of the chicane?
I think it's fair to say that Tim's been pressurized since this VSC came in, and since Ewens started putting him under this pressure. It's been lap after lap after lap. Ewens has been relentless here, and Safso's just waiting for these two to come together. You can see he has energy, far more energy, actually more than both Tim and Ewans combined in that car, and it's going to be Ewans with a very good run now. Is he going to get it done? He has no battery, and I think patience is a virtue here in Ewans' case, but he can't really do much. He's got very little battery. He's between a rock and a hard place right now. He's got Tim ahead, and he's got Safso charging on his rear.
Yeah, still, it's very difficult to overtake through this part of the track, especially in the wet weather conditions. Back to my previous point before these guys that started battling out. If we do see that switch over to where the wet tyres are more viable and have more pace, then it's interesting because the lap around here is so long that if someone had that additional pace over that lap time compared to everyone else, if they put in a lap later, they would have it. But I think because of how far it might put you back, I don't think it's going to be worth it at this late stage of the race with only a few laps to go. But like I said, it's a long lap, so it's a very interesting circuit, Spa, and with these dynamic racing conditions, we have got a very, very exciting race, and it's not over yet, as it looks like Codders has had an issue through Eau Rouge.
He definitely has had an issue. He's trying to get those tires going again. Things are quite slick. Ewans with a move. Looking at the outside this time of Tim. Things are very tight between these two. Still no DRS coming into play here. Ewans with a little bit more battery in the tank this time. He's using it. Coming down into turn one around the outside now. He's looking. It's not going to be enough just yet. They have to worry about Safso here.
Yeah, Lucha got past Ruben into the chicane as well. As we go, Ewans so close to the rear of Tim, and that might cost him a little bit.
Yeah, he had to. I think he had a little bit more pace coming up Eau Rouge there, Ewans. That was so tight. That could have been race over for Ewans right there if he had just so much as tapped Tim, and I think Tim may have gotten a bit of a budge in that scenario as well. May have been his race done and Safso to inherit, but of course they both live to move on through another lap in these torrential conditions. I mean, I can't really say torrential if we're only seeing green tires, but they are quite wet.
Yeah, and it's only going to get worse out there for these drivers. Obviously, we might see the formation of a slight dry line, but I don't think we're going to see too much as this rain is still pummeling down. And like you said, it's not quite torrential, but it's definitely getting close to that borderline, I think, between the inters and the wets. But like I said, I don't think we're going to see anyone switch unless it gets so bad that it's undrivable on these intermediate compound.
Lucha has caught up with this action, and he's been on a very good charge here in these wet conditions. He's down 5 positions, currently in 8th. He started this race in 3rd, so he is quite hungry to get back up there.
Yeah, these top 3 all with a very strong drive. As Codders, has retired coming through Eau Rouge. Hurricane just passing the Red Bull. It's missing a front right, so he's just gone off into that right-hand side wall.
Of course, if you guys are just tuning in, you're here for the final 3 laps of racing around round number 9 for the European grid. It is the Belgian Grand Prix. Safso on a very good run here, and there goes Codders. He has retired in Eau Rouge. Very unfortunate to see that. Of course, hit that follow button if you're new. We have a ton of racing happening this week. We've got 4 more Belgian Grand Prix happening. We've got the Oceanic Tier 2 and Tier 1 races this coming Thursday. And we have the Club Division Friday. We have a lot of racing happening this week. And I will be there with you all as well. Will Unicorn to commentate it all throughout. Right now, sticking with this train of Safso, Ewans, and Tim, and Lutra in the mix as well.
I was about to say, Lucha catching up to these guys pretty quickly after dispatching Ruben. Ruben 2 seconds behind. So I don't know what Lucha's got that these guys don't, but some serious pace, and there's still 2 laps of racing after this one. So he's got room to gain even more points here. Currently sitting in 8th place. But what can he do over the course of these next few laps? He's obviously not going to have DRS to help him out, and this rain isn't stopping at all, I don't think, by the end of this race.
Ooh, Ewins. He tapped the curb. And that's the little mistakes that we were talking about here. Ruben smells blood. And that Ferrari is going to catch up with that Haas massively. And it's Ewins already jumping into the pit lane.
Yeah, no way he could continue after that. That was a lot of debris. As he gets a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane as well. That could cost him big time. I'm surprised we didn't see a VSC because there was a lot of debris on the track after that. But that's the end of Ewan's race, unfortunately. He was on for a lot of points, but Lucha picks up a 3-second time penalty through a Rouge on the penultimate lap. That could cost him in terms of what we see in the order changing as he looks up the inside into turn 7 of Sasso, but it's not going to be all the Mercedes.
Very risky move there, and look at the visibility on him right now. In the rear of these two cars, the spray is massive, and these conditions are getting heavier as we move through into the final. Well, the finale. I wanted to say final, or I couldn't figure it out. The finale of this campaign. Things are quite tense for Tim right now with two very fast drivers on his rear, and of course Tim is the championship leader presently.
Well, I have some good news if you are a Tim fan. The two drivers behind him, Safso's got 3 seconds of penalties, and Lutra has a whole host of penalties. I think about 12 seconds and a quick glance. So I think he should be okay, provided he can keep himself penalty free and keep his car somewhat close to these guys. Obviously, he'd probably prefer to finish ahead of them on track, but if he does slip up a little bit, won't be in the end of his race. Also, Felipe seems to be just about catching his teammate up just a tiny bit, but I don't think it's going to be enough to see a position change toward the end of this race, unless penalties play a part there.
Oh, Lutra's tapped Safso in the rear and spun him around. He's on the grass. Ruben's going to inherit. Oh, no.
Well, that's Tim. Done and dusted. That's relieved a lot of pressure off of his shoulders.
Definitely.
And Ruben has a couple of penalties as well, but that is less than Lutra, who appears to have. I think he's let Safso back past there.
Yeah, Lutra always been a very good sportsman. He understands when he's made mistakes.
Yeah, I was looking at the race direction. I just come back and I see Lutra all the way back down there, but yeah, good to see from him. Obviously, unfortunate for both of their races that incidents occurred, but racing is racing on the final lap here, and Felipe really is reining in his teammate. Neither of them with penalties after Felipe served his 5 second at the start of this race. I don't think he's going to be able to catch Vettel through the last few corners, but never say never. It's not over till that checkered flag is waved, but Hurricane with a dominant showing, just coming into the bus stop chicane.
Hurricane told me that he was gunning for a win here yesterday. Well, congratulations to him as he takes the checkered flag in the Ferrari. With the race win here around Belgium, Vettel and his teammate 2-3 for the Racing Point squad. Relapse now in the McLaren coming through the chicane. A very good drive from him on his Misfits Racing League debut here in Season 3.
Yeah, really impressive debut. I think I've only seen good things for the McLaren reserve. Tim is going to take P5. This is where penalties might play a role, those Ruben crosses. Yeah, there's Safso into P6. So that incident actually not costing him too many points, I don't think. Obviously, he might have been able to battle Tim, but still coming home in 6th. Lucha finishing 8th.
Ewins now on the fresh inters, who was in a very good running position, who had that issue coming into the chicane 2 laps ago. To the line, the final driver here to finish in the points, Jake and Dirk Chocolate, 11th and 12th respectively right now. The Mercedes and the Red Bull, the 2 last drivers to finish this one. Of course, thank you to everybody in the chat for your patience and treating the league and the stewards with that, that patience, giving us the opportunity to sort out through any of the incidents. We greatly appreciate all the patience. These drivers know the stewarding team here for Misfits is very strict. Steph will be happy to finish in 9th after having to serve a qualifying ban today. But I'll have to say, Jake gonna be in the steward office for some time, I think. It's, greatly appreciate, again, all of you guys giving that stewarding team the respect. They are very good at what they do. There he is, Hurricane. He called it. He took it. He wanted that race win, Unicorn, and it's the 2 racing points, the Croatian and the Mexican, on the podium. And I do believe that is the 2nd time we've seen a Hungarian podium in as many weeks. Domi last week.
I'm just trying to work out whether Hurricane has overtaken Tim in the standings here.
I do believe he has. Yeah, I think Hurricane's just put himself back into a very good position at the top of the standings. You have Vettel there in 2nd. He'll be happy with that drive, as will Ifilipic. It's a good finish for the Racing Point team. Relapse in 4th. Tim in 5th. You have Safso in 6th there. A little bit of a scrape with Luktra on the final few laps. And, of course, Luktra, the good sportsman, giving him that position back. You have Ruben there, the South African, in 7th for Ferrari. Good finish for the Scuderia overall. You have Steph in 9th. Ewan's in 10th. You have Jake 11th and Dirk in 12th. The rest of this grid, unfortunately, did not make it the distance. Cotters, XTXP, with a very terrible incident involving the Mercedes of Jake, will be under heavy review, of course, post-race. We have Baza in 15th, Adam in 16th, Alexander 17th, with no conviction, the last driver there on the timing tower that participated in this one. It was a fantastic dynamic weather experience, I have to say. I thoroughly enjoyed it. How is it on your end, Unicorn?
Yeah, I think that's the kind of race that we always want to see. You've got that start. I mean, maybe if the start hadn't have been put under safety car conditions quite so quickly, we would have had an entirely different outcome here. But that's racing, that's F1, and we still had an exciting start with the top 3 going 3 wide into turn 1. But then obviously that early safety car really played with it. Judging by what's going on in the chat right now, Ifilipic apparently not happy with his 5-second penalty that he got, and that would have changed the outcome a fair bit. If maybe the game he didn't deserve it. I don't know. Don't quite know what he got it for, but yeah, a stunning race. I think dynamic weather conditions. We've been asking for it for a fair while, and obviously we had some last week, but that really was dynamic to its full potential, and I think everyone in the chat now can see why we like it so much.
Those wet dynamics for sure can play such a big role, of course. We are going to call it there. Thank you so much for tuning in. Of course, if you're looking to join the Misfits community, look to learn a little bit, get some more speed, join a racing league, of course, hit us up in the Discord. It's a very, very family-oriented, friendly community. Of course, if it isn't, tell the admins and we will take care of the business, of course. But we are going to be back Thursday with more Misfits Racing League action. Thank you so much for tuning in. Of course, if you guys enjoyed the broadcast, do us a favor, help us out, hit that follow button. It really, really supports us, and we greatly appreciate all the support we've had on the broadcasts. We are going to head on over and raid a member of the Formula 1 esports community. We're going to hit up Mr. Jarno Otmir, of course, who, the F1 esports, the Alfa Romeo boys, off to a good start, and Revo is a Misfits Racing League driver. He's the development driver for Sauber Esports, so we're going to head on over, give them some love. I hope you guys enjoyed the broadcast, and before we go, we got a couple of messages for you, but we're going to have a lot of fun coming this Thursday for 3 more Belgian Grand Prix. See you guys then.